mind, you could reason with it. If it had a body, you could shoot it. If it had a heart, you could kill it. Now, man is no longer the supreme being on this planet.
Welcome to the latest episode of the podcast that wouldn't die. I'm your host, Kevin. With me, as always, is Aaron.
Hello there. This is Aaron.
Each week, we discuss guilty pleasures and forgotten classics of the horror and sci-fi genre.
Which is this?
This is horror. I thought it was sci-fi as well, but it's not really sci-fi. It's kind of false.
Is it a guilty pleasure or a forgotten classic?
Oh, I think it's a little bit of this, a little bit of that, if you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? This week, we'll be discussing the classic, The Blob, starring Kevin Dillon and others.
And all
the rest.
A bunch of people who vaguely look like other actors again.
Well,
or perhaps related to other actors.
There, exactly. This is the lesser Dillon. Evidently, Matt Dillon was unavailable. Very sad.
That's a pity. But in the end, it was probably what's best for him. I love that we have all these actor families, and there's always the lesser one.
Well, I mean, I'll say this.
There's the lesser Skarsgårds.
Yes, there is. Well,
there's the lesser Opie.
Lesser Quaids, right?
Lesser Quaids.
Lesser Howards.
But in our relationship, who's the lesser?
I'll leave that up to our audience. Vote on Twitter. Well, I mean, here's the cold hard reality. There's the lesser in the sense of physical attractiveness, and then there's lesser in terms of like overall impact. I mean, Kevin Dillon, say what you want. By the early 2000s, he was on Entourage and doing fine. So,
what? Oh, I never watched Entourage. It looked super douchey.
It was, but he was Johnny Drama playing. It was funny is he played the less successful brother of a more famous actor on that show. So there you go. Good time.
Did you ever watch Chappelle Show?
Of course.
With what's his name's brother?
Oh, Charlie Murphy's True Hollywood Story.
Oh my God. I'm so sad that he is no longer with us because I know there's a whole book of true Hollywood stories that could have been written.
Oh, no question. Well, what's funny is those were all true stories. Those were literally true stories.
That's the best.
Right.
Doherty's could never come up with stories as good as those.
It's a sad situation. Truly sad.
Why aren't we hanging out with Super Freak? He's still kicking it.
Rick James.
I guess it's up to me.
Rick James is available. So we could definitely...
One of these years, it'll be Thanksgiving, and I'm going to say I'm rolling in with a surprise guest. You don't know if it's the former editor and writer for Breitbart, or if it's going to be Super Freak himself in full leather in time for Thanksgiving. You don't know. It'll be a surprise.
Well, basically what's going to have to happen is every time you say you have a special guest, I'll have to respond with, "Give it to me, girl.
Give it to me, girl. Give me that funk. Say what?"
and then when it's a head writer from Breitbart, then I'll be disappointed. So who's to say? Breitbart. Anyway, moving on with our life.
Meet my new boyfriend, Tucker Carlson.
Womp, womp, womp.
Pop a cradle. Whoop, whoop.
Give us your 30-second synopsis of The Blob, for God's sakes.
Oh, teenage angst, some kind of slime, and I guess you freeze it. All you really have to know is it's not as good as the original. That's what you really have to know.
When was the last time you saw the original Blob?
All I can tell you is this was so shitty that I don't even need to see the original Blob, even though it's been, 20 years, 30 years, 90 years, I don't know. But this was pretty shites. This was no stuff. This was not the stuff, I'll tell you that.
I will stipulate that this is not the stuff. But this movie is quite entertaining. I don't know what grass you're smoking, hippie.
I try to be lenient with your, because you're so much younger than me, as you like
That's
to
true.
say.
That is true.
So your palate is not as refined as
Is that what it is?
as your elder sisters.
Interesting.
I try to cut you some slack, but now I'm starting to think, I don't know, were you premature? Did mom drop you down the stairs? Because I'm not sure what's happening now.
So so we're clear. Going into this, you think this was a poor film. Is that what I'm understanding?
I am trying. It is worse than the weird autoerotic homosexual vampire thriller with Marcy from Married with Children. It's worse than that.
Are you talking about Fright Night? Another damn classic? Okay. I get it. Okay.
Than that. How about that? Agree?
I would agree, but I think the Fright Night is dynamite, so I don't know what you're talking about. Put down the crack pipe.
Charlie Murphy.
So, safe to say you've never seen this movie before.
Never in my life. Never knew it existed.
Never even knew it existed.
Ay, caramba.
Sweet Jesus. Yes, I didn't see this in the theater. This was another late night sleepover special. But I remember it being in the theaters. And I remember when Kevin Dillon makes his appearance with his crazy wig. That made
real hair.
It looks like a wig. If it's his real hair, that's a bigger problem we need to talk about. But when he appeared, I was immediately like, what in the hell am I sitting in and watching? This is 12-year-old me, shocked and horrified. So good times. I don't think I've seen it in the last 25 years, at least. So it was like seeing it fresh and new. So good times.
I don't. It's less of a blob and more like the slime you would get as a kid.
Oh, I don't know. It looks very somewhere between like an amoeba and some kind of protoplasm, or like your stomach flopping around is what it kind of looked like to me. Like kind of had like kind of an intestine-y quality to it as well.
It does go through some changes the bigger it gets.
It does indeed. Shall we just jump right in? For goodness sake.
Let's just go.
Oh, sweet Jesus. Let's see. What? I can't read my writing. One side of the bridge. Oh, okay. Yes, the meteorite crashes into the field or into the woods just outside of this small town, which it's weird because it's like it seems to be like they're getting ready for ski season or something. Like they have to justify, ooh, we're gonna have a big skiing going on here, but it doesn't seem like it's a place where skiing would be a place.
No, there's all this snow cells. I don't get it. At first I thought, well, maybe this is the after, because you kept seeing these signs on all the stores, but there were no people around.
Well, and I'm not that familiar with the geography of our great nation, but half the people had southern accents and wore cowboy hats. So are there a lot of snowy areas?
Yeah, they probably had something to do. It was filmed in Louisiana.
Right. Well, it's important that there was like a possibility of snow at some point, because that becomes a plot point later in the movie. But it just seems like cowboy hats, southern accents, snow. I guess there are higher elevation areas in like southern states. Is that a possibility?
I don't know. I mean, I suppose it gets cold down there, but do they ski in Louisiana?
Well, and they don't really show us like the slopes. You know what I mean? It's not like, oh, here are these like
snow.
Right. So that's an issue. We meet. Okay, there's a football game going on at the school. Everything, go ahead.
One question. Later on, we see a snowblower, like you would, like if you had a budgety ski resort. Like if I built a ski resort in my backyard, because that's how small this ice snowmaker was.
Right.
I mean, did they put all these signs in the window to explain why this appears at the end?
Yes. Well, they were talking like literally in the auto mechanic's garage. He's like, I'm fixing 3 snowmobiles and a Bleez Blahs, So they were establishing that at some point this will be a snowy climb. You know what I mean? Like, and this is like Little Aspen or something. Like, this is a place where people come to go skiing. So,
as one does in the bayou. So my question, later on we see the Lesser Dillon with a snowplow also.
Well, it was a snowplow / snow blower. So it was like I guess if people want to, yes. So it's like if people want to come skiing, but it's a warmer day, they can still kind of generate snow and kind of blow it onto the mountain. I guess. Right?
I mean, here where it never snows, you can pay some jackass to come over and blow snow all over your house.
Well, there you go. There you go. See, we learn things. We learn things.
Educational. Maybe we need to become a nonprofit and get that ORG.
That's right. Exactly right.
It's an educational podcast.
So, okay. So we meet like the football, like the wide receiver and the linebacker of the football team. They're buddies. And then there's the cheerleader chick that we meet, and she's very nice. And then there's the guy from the wrong side of the tracks.
With a pirate shirt. That's how you know he's bad, when he dresses like a pirate. It was like right out of Seinfeld. It was the puffy shirt.
It was a puffy shirt. We had a leather jacket on. We're talking about Kevin Dillon now, with a long, old, crazy black mane of hair. Where I'm just like, it just looked ridiculous.
It looked like Mike Myers from A Wayne's World. Party on. Excellent.
It absolutely did. It looked nuts. It looked nuts. And they established that he's trying to jump like the creek, like over a broken bridge or something. Did you see that? Where it was just like, what in the hell is happening? It's an important callback, though, because later he has to jump it. And of course, he's successful later in the movie. So that's good to know.
And we're not really sure why Emil from RoboCop hates him so much.
Because he's the kid from the bad side of the tracks. So you're right. There's the sheriff, who's kind of an even-tempered guy. He wears his cowboy hat. But the deputy, Briggs, I remember his name, Briggs, who's also Emil from RoboCop, is kind of a loose cannon a little bit. He, one point they arrest Kevin Dillon for a crime he obviously could not have committed. And they're like,
the crime was like, your mom's a crackhead and your dad's dead. So you have no right to exist.
That's correct. Well, later in the movie, after the spoiler alert, the wide receiver, who you think is the hero of the movie, gets brutally smushed by the blob, and the crazy old forest hobo is also half melted. They arrest Kevin Dillon because he's there, basically.
It's Promising Young Woman all over again.
It's a sad situation. But so they've got him in cuffs in the police station, and Briggs is like about to beat him up, and Kevin Dillon leans forward and licks him.
I know. I was like, I think I wrote that down. I was like, what the hell? No.
That's how you do it.
He's licking his white privilege right there.
Oh, very sad. Very sad indeed. Anyway, so a meteorite crashes in the forest. There's an old crazy hobo who literally lives like, this is like Road Warrior or something. He's got like a shack in the woods or something built out of trash from old cans he's collected. It was absolutely Boxcar Willie. He finds the meteorite, and there's the little blob swimming around inside the meteorite. And he pokes it with a stick and kind of raises it up like, ooh, what's going on? And of course, the blob kind of like dribbles down the stick. And when he tries to lower the stick, the blob keeps going up and gets on his hand. Ball game. That's why you don't mess with blobs from outer space.
Again, like Piranha, you could have dropped the stick.
Absolutely. I guess they didn't know at the time that the blob was like sentient. He just thought it was just some schmutz.
Yeah.
I guess.
As it starts coming at you, Drop the stick.
Drop the GD stick, and then we don't have these problems.
But I started getting flashes of the lonesome death of Geordie Verrill, the old Stephen King.
Oh, absolutely. It all comes back together. It's always a meteorite. But of course, the grand reveal later in the movie, because I literally wrote this down, later the government shows up wearing biohazard suits from outer space. And I'm like, how in the hell did they get there that quickly? It's the same night. But then that's the reveal that the meteorite was actually some sort of satellite that the evil US government sent up to outer space to do an experiment on amoebas or something. What in the hell is happening?
First of all, when you saw it, it was clearly the Death Star. So then, if the Death Star is that small, that means Star Wars could actually be taking place on our Earth right now, because they would be so small that we wouldn't even, they're smaller than ants.
That is correct. I think we can all agree on that.
I think we can agree with that. Absolutely.
Let me write that down.
Death Star, did you notice that?
It was a round metal shape.
It even had the small eye, like
it did not have.
I swear to you, the bottom half, Kevin, was the Death Star. Go back and look.
I'm gonna have to go back and watch just to verify this,
it was
ladies and gentlemen.
The only thing in this movie that caught my full attention. I was like, "What?"
Okay, that's because your soul is black and dead. I think we can all agree on that.
Right. He licked a meal, so it's not completely dead.
He licked a meal. Absolutely. Okay, so we meet the captain of the football team. He's meeting up to go out with the captain of the cheerleaders, I guess. And we're supposed to think he's the star. He's the lead of this movie. He's a handsome, strapping individual. Oh, no. No. He's literally dead 15 minutes into this movie.
Boom.
The blob drops on him, and you hear him screaming. You can't scream with the blob on you. How's that work? You're in the blob.
100%.
Very upsetting. And it was a gross scene. So what's her name? The cheerleader. I could write down names of characters. I just don't for some reason. Because it doesn't matter.
It was a full rape-a-do, so he got his just desserts.
No, he wasn't the other guy was the rape. Okay, we got to talk about that scene.
I thought that was the scene you were talking about. Sorry.
No. So, okay. The two football players that we meet, there's the nice, wholesome guy and his douchebag buddy. And they both have plans for the night with lovely ladies. And the douchebag buddy's like, we got to hit the pharmacy. I got to get some Jimmies.
All right.
Okay.
That was kind of funny. It was kind of funny.
That was a great scene. Yeah. He goes up. His buddy's like, will you hurry up? I don't want to be late for, my date. And the guy's like, okay, give me a second. Runs up to the pharmacist and is like, hey, give me a pack of large condoms, blah, blah, blah.
And as Paul Malls, some anal lube.
Yes, he did that. And then he said, hey, give you some Banaka while you're at it. And the pharmacy gives him the side eye and he's like, fine. He has to go back, I guess, to the vault to get the condoms? Is this how it works? They are just right there. And while he's waiting, the reverend, the priest rolls up and says, oh, how are you doing today, Billy? What are your plans? And then the pharmacist comes up. He was like, here are your condoms. And he's like, actually, they're not for me. They're for my buddy over there. Throws his buddy under the bus.
Oh, it's fantastic.
He's got a date with some naive lady tonight, and he's planning on going all the way. And I insisted that he at least practice safe sex, father.
And have fresh breath.
Because the other thing is that the pharmacist said, like, do you want regular or ribbed? And the guy's like, ribbed? Ribbed sounds good. So that was a great scene where the guy's looking at the buddy with the pharmacist and the priest, and the buddy, the wholesome buddy's like, will you hurry up? It's like, see, he's in a hurry. He's desperate to get down there and take advantage of this poor girl, father. I don't know what to say. That was a great scene. And of course, the grand reveal is the wholesome guy goes to pick up his date, and she's like, oh, I'd like you to meet my father. And he's the pharmacist who looks at him, just goes, ribbed.
The town has like 5 people in it. You know who everybody's parents are. That's what's ridiculous.
Oh, absolutely. And keep in mind that the priest is affiliated with the high school or something. He was at the football game. So when he's throwing his buddy under the bus, he's really throwing him under the bus. I mean, poor Father O'Reilly or whatever his name is going to come knock on his homeroom class and have a few words with him. Very upsetting.
Mm-hmm.
Very upsetting. That was a dynamite moment. I'm sorry. But you're right.
Maybe the best one in the whole show.
They both bite the dust. One of them, like we said, they go for a drive, the wholesome one with the girlfriend, and they bump into the crazy old hobo and Kevin Dillon, whose name is Flag, which I remember for some bizarre reason.
Red Flag.
And he's got the blob on his hand. They rush him off.
Wait, no. I think you're skipping a stellar moment there, my friend.
Go for it. Jump in.
He comes up with his slime-covered hand and an axe where he just walks up to him and he's trying to chop at his own hand. We're like, whoa. It's ridiculous and disgusting.
Well, yes. Okay, so Kevin Dillon's working on his bike in the middle of the forest in the middle of the night. And as one does. And the crazy hobo appears behind him in the firelight, raising the hatchet like he's Jason or somebody. And then he tries to chop his own hand off. And then you see the blob just move up his wrist and cover up the chop. So it's like
screaming. And I love the fact that he has to shove his blob-covered arm right into the faces of everyone. So as he has the hatchet, he's doing it right in their face. I was like, what the hell?
Absolutely.
Scrape it off at least if you got a hatchet. What is that chop?
Chop. Well, and the other thing is, I think this establishes that crazy biker from the wrong side of the tracks, Flag, is actually a good dude. Because when the hobo runs off into the woods, Flag follows him. Like, hey, you need some help, pal? I'd have been like, sayonara, hope it all works out.
I want to remind you that there's a point and yet another bread truck in our sea of similarities between this and RoboCop. I want to remind you that he literally leaves the chick in the bread truck and jumps to save himself.
That is true. That's later. He has a change of heart, I think is what we're talking about. So, yes, all that is true. But so they all go and take Blob Hand Joe to the hospital, I guess, where there's one doctor on duty. And they're like, just have a seat in the waiting room. The doctor will get to you when he gets to you with a blob on your hand. And they cut to the doctor who's just having like kind of a consultation on elective surgery. It's like, really? You kept this wait?
It's the emergency room where there is but one doctor and one nurse.
That is correct. Well, it's a small town. You can talk to that lady about lancing her bunions a little bit later. Okay, there's a dude in here with a melting hand. Screaming. I mean, you don't just close the door. By the way, did you recognize the doctor?
No. Blank it out. Tell me. Was it Burt Reynolds?
It was Burt Reynolds. Isn't that crazy? No. David Lynch, veteran. Well, who's the actor?
Oh, I thought you said it was David Lynch.
No, it was a David Lynch veteran from a lot of his, like all of his movies and TV shows. Kyle MacLachlan. First of all, it's not Kyle MacLachlan.
From the McLaughlin Report?
From the McLaughlin Group, exactly. His name is Jack Nance.
Oh, from
Eraserhead.
Wait.
He's Eraserhead.
Charles Dance. He's Eraserhead?
Yes.
Oh, that's going to be on our list, too. We haven't really...
We are not doing Eraserhead. But that shows me you're not a true Eraserhead fan, that you looked right at the doctor's face, who's also on, like, Twin Peaks. He's been in, like, every David Lynch movie. And, yes.
You know,
what
I've
is your
seen
problem?
Eraserhead, like, 5 times.
This week?
And still have no idea what the hell is going on?
And yet you want to do it on this show. No thanks.
There'd be a lot to talk about.
You're telling me. Sweet Jesus. So yes, the Blob obviously finishes off crazy old hobo. And when the conscientious football player is calling the cops to describe the melty hobo, then the Blob drops down on him from up above. And there's that gross scene where the cheerleader runs in and sees her boyfriend, or first, I guess it's their first date, getting like melted. His like arm is reaching out for her. She pulls on the arm, and then it just pops right off like a chicken wing.
The best was the hobo looked like when you put queso in the microwave a little too long.
It absolutely looked like that. Very upsetting. I appreciate the Blob, even though being right there next to her, because she promptly passes out or, has the vapors. The Blob does not just eat her because she's laying there. Instead, just bails. That was nice of the Blob.
It's like peace in the Middle East.
Right. I guess it was full. I just had a big meal, Why waste the food, I guess? Who in the hell knows what's going on?
Makes no damn sense is what you're saying.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Meanwhile, the other buddy, the other football player, has set up his straight up date rape car, date rape mobile, if you will.
It's like he rolled out of Porky's and landed in this movie.
Absolutely. Well, they're already half in the bag because he said he was making her cherry coolers or something. And he lifted the trunk and it was full of just open bottles. There's like a little blender that he was using. He's like mixing different boozes. There was just loose strawberries in the back of the trunk.
I thought that was funny. Yeah. Well, you know what? It's like True Blood. I think maybe the drinking rules are different in the South. Because that would be frowned upon with the open containers rolling around. Plus, underage people getting dosed. So,
yeah. Getting dosed. And he had given her a ring, like kind of a promise ring. And also in the trunk, there's literally a jar full of old crazy rings. Like he just does it. This is what he do. Honey, it's only you and me forever. Have another Jesus juice while we at it.
Yeah. Why does your class ring say 1954?
Pretty much. But so she passes out. We think she's passed out from the booze. It could be a case of passed out because the Blob melted her secretly. And
we don't know. It curled up her hoo-ha, and that's the last we saw.
That's the last. Exactly. So he's trying to cop a feel from the unconscious woman, and the Blob squirts out and gets on him. And he's like, Vicky, no. Really? You think this is a Vicky issue?
Yeah.
You think she's going to be like, oh, sorry, my bad?
I don't think you were listening to her now.
There you go. Me too. Now you know what it's like. Very upsetting.
That's what you get.
The cheerleader's little brother was off to see the latest horror movie called The Garden Shed Massacre or something like that.
Bullshit.
Some bullshit. But when they showed a clip from that movie, it was hilarious. It was hilarious. Because they were like making out by the fire, and they look over like, isn't it a little late to be trimming the hedges? And the guy looks up and he's wearing like a crazy hockey mask. He's like, hockey season ended months ago. This is good stuff. What is your problem?
That was kind of funny.
Sweet Jesus. Let's see what else is going on in this movie.
Not much else.
Do you have any thoughts and feelings you want to share while I look at my notes?
Oh, literally, when the government shows up, it looks like Close Encounters. I wrote down it's the frickin' Death Star. I wrote down Emil from Fame, Slime Paul, Burn Queso. How's he filling out all that damn paperwork? Which I don't even know what that means anymore.
Yes, I do know. I wrote that down too, because when they brought crazy old hobo in with the slime hand, they gave him a bunch of paperwork to fill out. And Kevin Dillon is like starting to fill out. How do you know any of this information?
It was paragraphs. I mean, they literally showed a section where it was handwritten paragraphs.
How do
And
you
quite
know this guy's
frankly,
medical history?
I found this dude. He's your fault. Deuces. I've done my civic duty.
Right. I don't know whether he has asthma or not, but I do know he has a blob on his hand.
Yeah.
Help him out.
He's got the blob. I don't know if his granddaddy had the diabetes. I'm guessing
The
he did
diabetes.
because it's Louisiana. So there you go.
Now, I want to establish we don't know this is Louisiana.
No,
by the way.
By the way, I Googled it.
It is Louisiana?
Yes.
Oh, well, shit. There you go. There's a lot of good skiing in Louisiana.
Uh-huh.
Oh, sweet Jesus.
I Googled it because some of it looked kind of familiar. So I was like, oh, where is this? And then I'm like, nope, Louisiana.
Now, there's a subplot of the kindly sheriff having kind of a flirtation with the waitress at the local diner.
And both of those people look very familiar.
Yes. The sheriff, this is a lot of, information that we'll probably go into later, but the sheriff is Jeffrey DeMunn, who was more recently in like The Walking Dead. He's been in a ton of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Including The Hitcher. He was the Texas Ranger who was, son, you don't want to pull that gun on me.
Oh,
so he has that.
All
right.
good. All good stuff.
He was the kindly sheriff then as well. The waitress, her name is Candy Clark, and I was like, she looks so familiar to me. And then I kind of rolled through. I'm like, well, I mean, I've seen this movie, and yes, I've seen that movie, but it wasn't like, oh, light bulb.
Oh,
So,
I kept thinking it was the chick who got killed by Phil Spector.
What was her name?
What was her name? But Candy Clark definitely sounds B movie, that's for sure.
No question. Later, this is important because when they go into the diner later, and then of course there's the busboy, I guess. The industrial sink is clogged up. Sticks his hand in there. There's a blob in there. There's a blob in there and pulls him down. I don't know how this is possible. Pulls him through the drain.
Yeah, I couldn't figure that out either. I was like, what? You have a plumber. Why am I doing this? Why is the busboy doing this? And why is there a hole big enough that you can go armpit deep into it?
It wasn't big enough. It was standard length or width or whatever radius of a normal. I'm not a mathematics person. Normal drain, but he was just getting popped and sucked in there, so that's really going to clog your sink. I gotta say, having a person crushed in there, very upsetting.
She was also in Twin Peaks.
She was. Oh yeah. But. So then they all run for their lives inside the diner. Flag and the cheerleader go into the walk-in freezer. And luckily, that's when they discover, oh, the blob doesn't like the cold. Because, I mean, Kevin Dillon was pulling out like a meat hook or something. What is a meat hook going to do? What are you going to do against the blob?
Space?
I guess it is, isn't it? Well, I guess it depends. Are you in direct rays of the sun? Because if that case, it would be hot, right?
Well,
I don't know.
But then how come when I climb a mountain, and I should be technically closer to the sun, why is it then colder?
Well, you're not that much closer, comparatively speaking. It may feel like you're a lot closer, but you're really not that much closer. So these are important scientific answers. I have many scientific answers.
It's true. Like when you see the astronauts like at the space station, they're usually in shorts.
Yes. Coincidence?
Deep, bro.
Who's to say? Candy Clark jumps out the window and goes into a phone booth literally right outside the diner.
That seems
and of course,
choice.
That was a bad move. Bad move. The blob drops down over the phone booth. See, this is the thing. We don't really have phone booths anymore.
It's true.
I mean, that's a bit of Americana, just lost forever. Very upsetting.
Sad.
She calls the sheriff, and they're like, oh, the sheriff's not here. he went to the diner to see you. And then his melty face appears inside the
that
blob.
was good.
That was a good moment.
Sea of slime drifts by the windows of the phone booth, you see his like distorted face stretching across like Stretch Armstrong. Yeah, fantastic.
Stretch Armstrong. And again, the phone booth, not watertight, not airtight. So eventually the blob gets in and just squishes her.
Well, and
bye-bye, waitress.
Speaking of things that are not airtight, not watertight, none of their plans to deal with the blob were airtight, watertight. None of it made any goddamn sense.
This is important. So later in the movie, the blob is roaming around inside the sewers. And the government's plan is like, well, we'll just destroy this exit from the sewer over here and destroy this exit over here, like these junctions, essentially. Except I literally wrote this down. The blob could flow up through any of like the storm drains, could flow up through any of the manholes, because even those have little holes in them.
It got down there. It went through a manhole, a closed manhole. This is all not thought out.
Not a good plan. Not a good plan, to say the least.
Pure
very upsetting.
Ding dong daddy-o.
It was ding dong daddy-o. No question. Anything else we want to talk about?
Nothing else to say. We're dragging now.
Well, I can't, it's hard. I'm like Aaron now. It's hard for me to read my own writing in my notes.
That's why
that hook won't help.
That's why I just gave up writing notes, and now I just bebop and scat.
Okay. The emergency exit of the movie theater, because they're watching the movie and the blob squirts out through the projection booth.
Right, it has like tentacles now.
Right. So people are like running here and there. Cheerleader grabs her little brother who's at the movies with his little friend, and they go through the emergency exit, which leads to just a dead end alley. So this would not get you, a good review from, the safety board. You know what I mean? If you're just escaping, if it's a fire, God forbid, not even a blob, but a fire, the exit takes you to a dead end alley.
Well, that's why she had to use his little jackass friend as bait. So
there was a sad moment where it was like, they're trying to escape in the sewers, and her brother's like 12-year-old friend eaten by the blob.
That's what you get.
Really?
Lesson learned, children. You were told not to go see it. You pulled shenanigans. One of you was going to have to die.
Absolutely.
If you just stayed home.
There were a lot of scenes of people like throwing grenades or bombs at the blob, which you think would blow it up, but would send chunks of blob everywhere.
Right. We saw a movie like that. Wasn't that the Killer Clowns from Outer Space? When you chop them up, it just makes more?
Yes. Absolutely. Well, again, the blob is basically like acid, right? So even like a little blob, it's bad. You don't want that chunks of blob juice flying everywhere in the middle of town.
Well, that's my whole point at the end. It doesn't make any goddamn sense. So they froze him and turned him into powder. So how good a sweeping are you going to do as this stuff starts defrosting?
Well, so that's the climax of the thing is they crash the snowblower that creates, because they discovered we can use fire extinguishers on the blob to kind of discourage it to a sense. I looked this up. Only certain kinds of fire extinguishers actually have kind of a cold aspect to them. You know what I mean? Like they have to be carbon dioxide fire extinguishers. If it's just foam or something, that ain't gonna do nothing.
No.
That just makes it mad. So anyway, they crash the snowblower into the blob and have an explosive, which sends the CO2 or the liquid nitrogen or whatever it was onto the blob, and it basically turns into a bunch of crystal.
Fire extinguisher? I thought it was a snowmaker.
No, earlier they were spraying fire extinguishers when they were trying to hide in the church.
Oh, yeah.
They were like spraying it with fire extinguishers. Yeah. Yes. So, but later they crashed the snowblower, which also had kind of a similar CO2 liquid nitrogen thing going on there as well.
It was nice
didn't
when
write
they were
this.
in that they literally had half a dozen fire extinguishers. I know in my house, I have got like 24 in every room.
Well, the cheerleader found one just laying in the street. It's like, how did that happen?
It's a miracle. It was Jesus.
It's a Christmas miracle. And poor Fame gets like, he's like inside the church, like pushing up like a bookcase or something, and the Blob comes around him and grabs him around the waist and just snaps him in two, pulls him right through.
It pulls him right through. That was pretty good.
Bye-bye, pal.
That's what you said.
And we didn't even talk about the crazy reverend who was at the pharmacy, gets lit on fire and becomes a crazy religious zealot because he rescued a little bit of the Blob. So
and they worship.
So now, right? Well, I think he was saying like, kind of a Revelations, kind of the evangelical situation where it's like the end of the world. We're just waiting for the sign to release the little Blob I have in this jar. So
it totally reminded me of if thine eye offends thee, pluck it out. Remember that?
Because he had an old rotten eyeball after the events of the movie. Very sad.
What movie is that, brother?
I don't know.
We did it for B Movie Club.
You got to give me more than that. I did 250 episodes of the B Movie Club.
I think it was X, the man with the X-ray eyes.
Oh, yes. With Ray Milland, of course.
Pluck it out.
Pluck it out. Shall we do behind the scenes?
I think it's time for that.
I think you're right.
We're a little light on the action, I think, for this one. I mean, nah.
I just couldn't read my GD writing is the problem. I think there's a lot of good stuff in this.
Oh, here's one thing. I wrote 80s pearls. I forgot that it was very cool to wear pearls in the 80s with your Muffy sweater and your Peter Pan
That's what people did. Oh, no question. It was the style. Okay, behind the scenes. The partially dissolved but still alive soldier was performed by stuntman Noble Craig, who was a triple amputee who lost both legs, an arm, and an eye while serving in Vietnam.
Do you think that was his real name?
Yes. And let me tell you this.
Boom.
We have done another movie that starred Noble Craig in that movie as a triple amputee.
Was it a Leprechaun movie?
Nope.
Give me a clue. Give me a clue. Don't tell me.
Okay, here's the clue.
Was it in fact the movie?
Yes.
Oh my God! Yes.
Yes, that was him. Not funny. He was the crazy snake man from earlier in the movie in the carnival
show that was crying and gasping at them. Oh, bless his heart.
That is true. This movie was written by Frank Darabont, by the way.
Who is that?
He wrote and directed Shawshank Redemption. He wrote and produced and directed like the first season of Walking Dead.
Nah, I guess.
Shut your damn mouth.
I guess I'll give you Walking Dead, but I was never. I mean, I read Shawshank. I read the Stephen King, but that's all right. What have you done for me lately? I did like
Shawshank is a goddamn classic. I don't even know what you're talking about.
I'm a girl.
Okay, so the director and Frank Darabont didn't have a lot of rules for the Blob, but they agreed that the general concept of the creature is that it was an inside-out stomach, meaning the acid is burning, melting, and devouring almost everything it touches.
Oh, I was thinking it was supposed to look like Menudo. I thought that's what you're saying, which could also burn you and
when you say Menudo, do you mean the music group?
No, I do not. I was
Very
like,
good.
It don't look like tripe to me.
It was absolutely tripe. There was a scene. So there's a scene where Flag is getting away from the government agents in cars by jumping over the broken bridge, and he gets away, except for the fact, of course, there was a helicopter who was also following him, but somehow he loses the helicopter as well. Makes absolutely no sense.
No.
Very upsetting.
Little Evil Knievel in his pirate shirt.
Very upsetting. Of the film's $19 million budget, $9 million of it went to visual effects.
Oh dear.
Shut your mouth. The Blob looked very blobby.
I will give you. I mean, by the time it was as big as the movie theater, I'm not sure it was much better than the 1950s version. But I will tell you, it looks much better than The Thing.
You just can't help yourself. Any excuse to take a shot at the immortal classic, The Thing. Very upsetting.
Aye, aye, aye. We should probably
Don-
watch the original Thing. Is it shittier than that?
Well, there's no blobby type characters in the original Thing from Another World. He's just like a kind of a Frankenstein looking guy
Oh, okay.
roaming around.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still enjoyable. I've seen the original Blob and I've seen the original Thing, and I find them both, they're both entertaining if you can take into mind they're both made in like the mid 50s. So take that for what it's worth.
Hey, I love Body Snatchers, and that was the 50s.
Yeah, but it's not heavy on the effects, right? It was just like every now and again they pull out a big like green peapod and be like, "Oh, this is the alien right here."
No, but
Don't look
you
at
would
it.
sometimes come in, and then you could see the body with some bubbling action going on around it.
There was no bubbling.
Oh,
It was just here's a dude with Vaseline on him. That's all they had to
whatever.
do.
That was the most terrifying Vaseline.
It was very upsetting.
But sometimes less is more.
So, oftentimes. Donovan Leitch, who played Paul, and Shawnee Smith, who played Meg, went to the senior prom together in reality, and then later starred in this movie as the young dating couple. So,
That's nice.
coincidence? Yes. This was released 30 years after the original version of The Blob, 1958. And had an estimated budget that is almost 80 times the original.
Wow.
Absolutely. Let's see. The bit involving the teen who bought condoms at the pharmacy only to discover the girl's father was the pharmacist was based on a real event from the director's life.
Oh, so the director was like the douchey guy?
That's a good question. Are you the date rapist? Is that what you're saying to the world right now?
Womp womp.
Very upsetting. Chad McQueen, the son of Steve McQueen, was offered the part of Brian Flagg, but turned it down for 2 reasons.
Lay it on me.
Number 1, he disliked the script. So you understand that. And number 2, he has a strict policy of never performing in any production based on or inspired by his father's work.
Oh, interesting. Now, let me ask you this question.
Yes.
So what movies has he done that I might be familiar with?
Chad McQueen, most famously to me, he was Dutch in Karate Kid. One of the asshole Cobra Kai guys.
Nah, I don't know.
He's the one who fights Daniel LaRusso in the All Valley Karate Championship and says, he's got like bleach blonde hair and says like, "You're dead meat."
Yeah,
He was the asshole.
I'm not really
He was
sure
an
if I
asshole for
saw
that
it.
group.
I don't think I saw Karate Kid. It was Ralph Macchio. Who the hell gives a shit?
The audience can't see this. First, it's Shawshank. Who gives a damn? Next, it's Karate Kid. Must have missed that one. I think this might be our last episode.
Familiar. I mean, I understand there's like some kind of Cobra Kai thing going on that boys are interested in.
Do you understand that? I don't know if you do. Very
I might
upsetting.
have seen it when it first came out, but most girls I knew of my age went to see it because they thought Ralph Macchio was sensitive and sweet, and I couldn't give a womp womp.
You don't have to, be reading Tiger Beat magazine to appreciate Karate Kid.
When
Just shut
Karate
your
Kid
mouth.
came out, I would have been reading Tiger Beat magazine, and he would not be on my list. If it was Sean Cassidy, I don't know.
Well, Sean Cassidy would have been a few years before this, so okay.
Maybe that's part of the problem too.
That is part of the problem. Let's see. A lot of the Blob slime juice was made out of methocel, which is both unbelievably slippery and a thickening ingredient for milkshakes.
I honestly thought it looked like napalm. It looked like Sterno because it was that translucent pink kind of color. Sterno is napalm. But
Is it really? I don't know if I knew that. Interesting.
I guess
The
you don't want to
director
cover your actors with highly
with
flammable.
napalm. As a rule, no. Generally.
Wait, I need to
okay,
have a cigarette break. Ah! And then it's a whole different movie.
It would be definitely a different film at that point. The director and the writer referred to Paul McCrane as that melty guy, referring to his performance in RoboCop. So, good times. Very upsetting. Here it is. Kevin Dillon and Shawnee Smith both wore hair extensions at Chuck Russell, the director's insistence. Shawnee Smith, who played Meg, the cheerleader girl, you couldn't really tell. Kevin Dillon, it was ridiculous. It was ridiculous.
Both of them look bad. It was ridiculous because they spent $9 million on the Blob, but got the wigs over at Thrifty's during Halloween.
Very upsetting. I think that's all we need to know about that. Shall we talk about the cast? We kind of been talking about them anyway.
Yeah.
So we talked about, the director is Chuck Russell, who directed The Blob, The Mask, and Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors.
I'm sure I've seen that. I can't even remember what happened in that one.
Let's see. The writer was Frank Darabont, 3-time Oscar nominee. He wrote The Green Mile, Shawshank Redemption, Walking Dead, The Mist.
He just does Stephen King. He's the ghostwriter for Stephen King. Is that it?
That's all he does. That's all he does. Let me see if there's anything else I can mention. That'll about do it. The Green Mile.
You already said that.
Yeah, that's about it. Let's see. Talk about
Stephen King. He's never written a screenplay, has he?
Yes, he has. He wrote and directed the hit film Maximum Overdrive, based upon his short story Cars, starring Emilio Estevez, etc., etc.
But that's so similar to that other movie where all the cars take over.
There have been many movies about cars taking over.
Not Christine, but wasn't there another movie? Maximum Overdrive there's like this renegade trucker, but there's also another movie. No,
Maximum Overdrive is not about a renegade trucker.
You
were right the first time.
Wasn't it one like semi though? That was the main thing.
I mean, there was a like toy truck that had like a face on it. That it wasn't necessarily the main car, but it was definitely the most distinctive looking.
As soon as we're done with this, I'm gonna go Google movies about cars that drive themselves just to kill people.
Let's see. Let's talk about the cast. Kevin Dillon played Brian Flagg. You know him from Poseidon, The Blob. He was in Platoon. He was in The Doors. He's been in a bunch of stuff. He was Johnny Drama. He played John Densmore. Does that mean anything to you? No. Is he a member of The Doors?
Was he a member of The Doors?
Could be. Let's see. Younger brother of Matt Dillon. Shawnee Smith played Meg Penny. You know her from The Blob. She was in like all the Saw movies, if you saw any of those things.
Oh.
She was like in Armageddon. She's in a few other things.
John Densmore was the drummer for The Doors.
There you go. Boom. He wore a crazy wig in that movie as well.
And so now we have another connection to David Lynch, too, because Kyle MacLachlan was in The Doors. It all comes back.
Kyle MacLachlan played Ray Manzarek in The Doors. Kyle MacLachlan is flipping burgers at the gas station.
I had a friend who ran into Ray Manzarek at the San Francisco airport, just like chilling at the bar. He sidled up.
Did he say hello or?
Yes, he got his autograph. He chit-chatted with him.
There you go. Donovan Leitch, and I'm sure I'm messing up his last name, played Paul Taylor. He was famous for The Blob, Glory, Cutting Class, I Shot Andy Warhol. You remember these, don't you?
Artsy fartsy.
Jeffrey DeMunn played Sheriff Herb Geller. You know him from The Mist, The Green Mile, The Hitcher, The Blob, Walking Dead. He's been in a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
Candy Clark was the waitress, Fran Hewitt. I always appreciate when every character has a first and a last name.
They're fully developed, then you know.
That's correct. She was in American Graffiti. She was in The Man Who Fell to Earth. She was in Blue Thunder, and she was in Zodiac. Did you ever see Zodiac?
Yeah, I saw Zodiac.
What did you think?
It kind of...
Oh, really? I found it very unnerving.
Maybe I'm confusing it with the Black Dahlia.
Yeah, that might be something else.
But The Man Who Fell to Earth, that's the David Bowie piece, right?
I believe that's correct,
Okay.
yes.
Well, hey, worked with Bowie. It's good enough for me.
You can't go wrong. Paul McCrane played Deputy Bill Briggs. You know him from ER. He was on ER for like 11 years.
Yeah.
Playing Robert Romano. He was also Emil Antonowski on RoboCop. He's on a show called All Rise right now as Jonas Lasky.
Wow. God bless him. That means
God bless him.
That means people like him.
God damn it. You know him also from Fame as the sensitive. Well, he's the one gay member of the show, Fame. Is that what it was?
Like a girl that she thought she was kind of like dating him, but nothing was really happening. I think he was like the sensitive son of a famous actress. I'm pulling this out of my ass. And he's fine, or like a wealthy family or something, and he's finally kind of like coming to terms with his homosexuality. But really, Fame is Fast Times at Ridgemont High, only that everyone's at a performing arts college.
I'd like to reiterate that he was the one gay student out of performing arts high school.
Which it seems a little hard to believe.
Little hard to believe.
We both have
Anywho,
experience with high school and college theater.
that is correct. So, okay, whatever. Willing suspension of disbelief.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the rating, shall we?
Yeah. What does Rex Reed say?
That's a good question. The Blob currently has 62% on Rotten Tomatoes. The audience, 56%. Very upsetting.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see if I can track down some top critics here. See if anybody who we're vaguely familiar with has an opinion on this bad boy.
Good call.
Here we go. Peter Travers of
He's
People
real.
Magazine. He's real. All we get is sullen Kevin Dillon subbing for Steve and a bigger, nastier lump that bloodies up its victims in stomach-churning close-ups.
There was nothing stomach churning about this.
It was stomach-churning.
I vomited in the theater. It was so disturbing.
I couldn't even contain myself. Very upsetting. So that's a big negative. That's as close as we get to a top critic, I'm sorry to say. No Rex Reed, as per usual. So that's good.
You don't really need Rex Reed when you have us.
That's all you need, for goodness sake. So what is your review? What is your rating of The Blob?
I am going to give it 2 out of 5 blob in your ass. And we're just going to call it a day.
Blob in your ass. Interesting. I'm going to give it 3.5 ribbed for her pleasure.
The
I
Blob-
think it's fun.
No, the Blob ribbed for her pleasure. No.
That's right. There it is. I think it's a fun movie. It ain't Shakespeare. It has a couple genuine laugh out loud moments, in my opinion.
Okay.
I mean, it's a Blob.
Okay, Kevin's wrong. There are a couple
shut
of
your damn
guffaws. There were a couple of moments where you're like, huh. And then slowly you pick up your phone.
Shut your mouth.
What Russia's up to today? What's on the Instagram? Oh, there's a Blob.
I don't believe you. I don't believe you. Give in to your feelings, for goodness sake. So thank you very much. Go to our page on Twitter at TPodcast, TW Go to our page on Facebook at The Podcast That Wouldn't Die. Aaron, are we on Instagram?
We are this week. We're on the Insta. We are The Podcast That Wouldn't Die.
New content daily from your Instagram. So check that out. You can also email us at The Podcast That Wouldn't Die at Gmail. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere the finer podcasts are available. So don't forget to like, share, rate, and review, all that good stuff. Aaron, are you on social media? I don't know what the story is.
I am on the Twitsky. I am the Cult of Aaron. I am on the Insta. I am the Cult of Aaron. I'm also on the Insta with Don't Feed the Pigeon. I'm on Tumblr. I'm on Flickr. I'm on Artsy. I'm on First Dibs. I've recently downloaded the app for the Ticker Talker, but I do not have the
True Social.
The Snapchat. I'm not on Parlay or Parlor. I'm not on whatever the fuck that new Trump button is.
Not yet, anyway.
Not yet.
Next week, we'll be discussing the science fiction classic Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, starring Rick Ruffalo. So check that out. It is on, if you have Paramount Plus, it is free.
I do not have
If you do
Paramount
not-
Plus. Am I going to have to watch some bootleg version on like YouTube or Vimeo in 30-second increments?
Yes, you will. Or you could spend $3.99 on, $5.99 if you want to go on Amazon.
What?
Here we go. Wait, hang on. $2.99 if you want to watch standard definition. So there you go.
I thought
your
perhaps
pick.
there was some new Khan, like a Jonas brother plays Khan or something.
Yeah, Madeline Kahn as Khan.
I'd
She's
pay
available.
for that. I'd pay to see that. Madeline Kahn, The Wrath of Madeline Kahn, 2-drink minimum. Boom.
Where do I sign up? For God's sakes.
Fantastic.
So, thank you very much, and be well.
Well, okay. Be well.